Think about how much information you consume every day. You spend hours scrolling through your phone. You follow every industry expert. During your commute, you're listening to business podcasts at 1.5 speed. You're in dozens of group chats. You pay for AI subscriptions every month because you want to stay ahead. You don't want to miss the next breakthrough model. You want to know where the next opportunity is. You need to understand the latest policies, the newest tools, and the hottest trends. It all sounds ambitious. But underneath it is often something much simpler. Fear. Psychologists even have a name for it. FOMO. The fear of missing out. You're afraid that someone else knows something you don't. You're afraid your coworkers will mention a new concept you've never heard of. You're afraid of being left behind. But here's the strange part. If you're consuming more information than ever before, shouldn't you feel more confident? Why do so many people end up feeling more anxious instead? Because most of that information has almost no value. Decision science has a framework, called the value of information, or VOI. And it offers a surprisingly simple way to separate gold from sand. The core idea is this. Information is only valuable if it changes what you actually do. Not if it's true. Not if it's interesting. Not if it's popular. Only if it changes your decision. Imagine you're the CEO of an oil company. You have the opportunity to drill an oil well that costs $10 million. If there's oil underground, you'll make $40 million in profit. If there's no oil, you lose the entire investment. Geologists estimate there's only a 20% chance that oil is actually there. Without any additional information, drilling isn't a good bet. Now suppose another company offers you a perfect geological survey that can tell you with certainty whether oil exists underground. How much would that report be worth? The answer isn't based on how difficult the survey is. It's based on how much it improves your decision. Without the report, your expected profit is essentially zero. With the report, you only drill when oil actually exists. Since there's a 20% chance of finding oil, the report increases your expected profit by $8 million. That means the information itself is worth $8 million. Notice something important. The report isn't valuable because it's interesting. It's valuable because it changes your action. Now compare that to the article you spent an hour reading last night. 10,000 words explaining the AI revolution. It might be fascinating. It might even be completely accurate. But if it doesn't influence any decision you'll actually make, its decision value is close to zero. No decision. No value. At this point, you might object. What about lifelong learning? Isn't knowledge valuable for its own sake? Absolutely. But VOI makes an important distinction. Some information has consumption value. It entertains you. It satisfies your curiosity. It makes you feel informed. That's perfectly legitimate. But consumption value is not the same as decision value. Most of the information that fuels our FOMO belongs to the first category. We convince ourselves that we're becoming smarter. In reality, we're often just reinforcing an identity. I'm someone who stays informed. I'm ahead of the curve. I'm the first to know. Consuming information feels productive. But consuming information is not the same as making decisions. Many people suffer from information anxiety not because they're lacking information, but because they never translate information into action. They're constantly preparing, rarely deciding. From the perspective of VOI, truly valuable information usually has three characteristics. First, it's goal-oriented. Information only becomes valuable after you've defined a goal. What exactly are you trying to improve? What's your current bottleneck? Good information acts like a lever. It changes your behavior in a way that moves you closer to your objective. And because of that, valuable information is often highly specific. The latest political headline probably won't change your life. Understanding which part of your own workflow wastes the most time just might. Second, valuable information is often uncomfortable. Human beings naturally seek confirmation. We enjoy hearing things that reinforce what we already believe. But the highest value information usually challenges your existing mental model. It forces you to update your beliefs. Sometimes it's criticism. Sometimes it's failure. Sometimes it's evidence that you've been wrong all along. That's why valuable information often hurts. Finally, high-value information appears right at the decision boundary. Imagine you've already decided to buy an electric car. You've saved the money. You're planning to visit the dealership this weekend. Then you read another article comparing electric vehicles. Interesting? Sure. Useful? Probably not. Your decision has already been made. Now imagine a different situation. You have two job offers. Both seem equally attractive. You're struggling to choose. Then a trusted friend tells you that one of those companies is likely to go public within the next year. Suddenly the balance shifts. That single piece of information is incredibly valuable. Not because it's dramatic, but because it changes your decision. That's what high VOI looks like. Interestingly, the information we obsess over every day usually has the opposite characteristics. Everyone already knows it. It mainly provides emotional stimulation. And it has almost nothing to do with the choices we're actually making. Its VOI is extremely low. Here's a fascinating real-world example. A graduate student reportedly made millions of dollars by betting on sports prediction markets. His advantage wasn't superior knowledge about sports. Instead, he noticed that Asian betting markets updated their odds several hours earlier than another prediction market. Those small differences reflected newer information. He built an automated system that constantly compared the two markets and placed bets whenever discrepancies appeared. The valuable information wasn't the match itself. It wasn't the betting odds. It was the tiny gap between two different information systems. That gap disappeared quickly. And if enough people copied the strategy, the opportunity would vanish. High-value information is often like that. It's subtle. It's temporary. And it rarely makes headlines. If you want to find valuable information, stop acting like an information tourist. Become an information sniper. Start with the decision you actually need to make. Ask yourself, what information could genuinely change my choice? Then ask a second question. Is acquiring that information worth the cost? VOI doesn't say you should collect unlimited information. In fact, information has diminishing returns. Eventually, more research stops improving your decisions. At some point, you simply have to decide. Sometimes, though, it's worth paying for better information. Decision theory distinguishes between two kinds. The first is perfect information. This completely removes uncertainty. Hiring an expert mechanic to inspect a used car before buying it is a good example. Medical imaging before surgery is another. The second is sample information. Instead of eliminating uncertainty, it reduces it. Clinical trials for new drugs. A/B testing at tech companies. Launching a minimum viable product before building the full business. These don't give perfect answers. But they improve your estimates enough to make better decisions. Once you start thinking this way, your priorities change dramatically. Employees often obsess over industry trends and the next big opportunity. But most of those decisions belong to executives. The information that matters more is much closer to home. How is performance actually evaluated in your company? Where is the bottleneck in your workflow? Which skill would make your manager trust you with bigger responsibilities? Students spend endless hours researching which major will dominate the next decade. But the higher value question is much simpler. Which concepts do you still misunderstand? Which types of problems keep costing you points? Researchers debate global scientific breakthroughs while ignoring the practical obstacles in their own experiments. Business owners attend conferences about disruption and innovation while failing to ask why their best salesperson just resigned. The grand narratives are exciting. The local constraints determine reality. Public information is often spectacular. High-value information is usually boring. It's hidden in customer complaints, in failure reports, in small probability estimates, in conversations between different communities. Most importantly, it's hidden in your own data. Some people can explain international politics in great detail but know almost nothing about the dynamics inside their own organization. Some follow every piece of AI news yet have never built a simple automated workflow. Some spend weeks researching a $50 gadget but perform almost no due diligence before changing jobs, buying a house, or getting married. There's nothing wrong with curiosity. Curiosity has its own value. But if your goal is making better decisions rather than simply knowing more, then you need a different question. Don't ask, what information is interesting? Ask, what information would actually change what I do tomorrow? That's where the gold is. That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.